I also think this is a sort of a pivotal moment, if you like. I think, as Joe Biden has said, it's got to be a turning point, and I think that perhaps, if not peace, then perhaps some sort of more calm stability is a step closer.
Well, let's begin in the Middle East and that news that reached us last night, the confirmation that Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, the man who came up with the plan for the October the 7th terrorist atrocity, has been killed in Gaza. Accidentally, actually. It wasn't a kind of mission by, special forces within Israel. They kind of came across him by accident, but have confirmed from DNA taken from him that he has died. I wonder, Nikki, now, I've heard several commentators talking over the last 12 hours or so saying that actually Israel should, quote, take the win, see this as an opportunity to, I hate the word off-ramp, but for use of a better one, find a way to get out of this cycle of violence, open up diplomacy with Hamas, with the focus, of course, being the return of hostages.
Well, I think that last point is the critical one, isn't it? Which is that has got to be the focus now of the Israeli efforts. And I think those of us who have supported Israel's right to take action, we might perhaps sometimes have had some question marks about quite how much pummeling the ordinary citizens of Gaza were taking. But I mean, I think that's had to be right, which is that Israel has had to focus on the. I think I heard earlier on your programme somebody saying that there are still 97 hostages who are believed, obviously, to be being held, of whom sadly I think 33 are thought to have died, but whose bodies need to be repatriated. And I think whoever said that the last 12 hours is wishful thinking, because I don't think Israel is going to take the win or anything like that, or walk away until they have all those hostages accounted for. And I don't think any government could possibly do that. And I think that they'd be fortunate for this death to have happened, given he was the mastermind of the most horrific attack on October the 7th last year. But I also think this is a sort of a pivotal moment, if you like. I think, as Joe Biden has said, it's got to be a turning point. And I think that perhaps, if not peace, then perhaps some sort of more calm stability is a step closer. But until those hostages are returned, sadly, whether they are alive or dead, I think it's very difficult for the Israelis to draw any kind of line under the conflict.
Jack, where are you on this?
Well, I think, first of all, he was not just an enemy of Israel. He was an enemy of human decency, responsible for the rapes and murders of innocent teenagers and other civilians at this time last year. He was also responsible for, and quite happy to see, the carnage on Palestinian lives, because that was all useful for his cause and for mobilizing people against the state of Israel. So nobody should be shedding any tears this morning, left, right, or centre. But I think what needs to happen now is, clearly there needs to be discussions immediately towards releasing the hostages. There then needs to be a route map of some kind towards diplomatic discussions that would start to look much more seriously at a more permanent solution that involves two states. And then, critically, the democratic world, needs to return to the number one focus that we should have right now, which is defeating the hostile Russian state in Ukraine. This has been a horrific 12 months in the Middle East. But what it has done is bought more time for Putin in Ukraine, because so much diplomatic, financial and security effort has had to be directed further south. So, let's get this done, get the pressure on, but then let's get into the winter and focus on making sure that the Ukrainians are free.
I just wonder, Nikki, as well. I mean, we've got these two wars going on. There's, a lot for America to focus on right now between those two wars, and also clearly the presidential election. And with that, the paralysis it brings, because, of course, November doesn't bring us a new president. January brings us a new president. So we've got a few months to go yet. We have heard criticisms, indeed voiced on this programme, that Benjamin Netanyahu is keeping the war going, will want to keep the war going to benefit him. You know, he's facing corruption charges. It deflects from criticism at home, criticism not least from the hostage families that not enough is being done to bring those people home. And actually, that is a problem in itself. We spoke to Sir Liam Fox earlier on. He didn't buy that argument. Where are you on that, Nikki?
I think I'm perhaps more persuadable. I mean, I think there's no doubt I'm not an expert in internal Israeli politics, but from what I see, Prime Minister Netanyahu is in deep political trouble, and I think there have been a lot of Israelis who, whilst outraged, horrified by last year's attack, have also questioned his actions and tone as Prime Minister. I'm sure he's got many supporters as well. But I think, I would agree. I think Jack made a really important point, which is that actually, if there can be more stability in the Middle East, then actually the focus has to switch back to Ukraine and what's happening. And I suspect, it's not just if it is Prime Minister Netanyahu, it'll be President Putin as well, who is very much invested in ensuring that there is a Donald Trump victory in the US elections next month, and hoping that actually that happens, and that's advantageous to him in terms of his invasion of parts of Ukraine. And the trouble is, it's not those two sort of hotspots, but there are other parts of the world as well where there are significant difficulties. And so I think all leaders, all those who are breaking international rules, doing what they shouldn't be doing, will be hoping that actually they're going to get somebody in the White House who's not going to challenge them. And that's why this US election is just absolutely critical. And it appears to be approaching incredibly fast now. That the essential thing is to have a president in the White House who understands the international rules-based order and will stand up, as Jack says, for human decency and for international sovereignty.
And of course, Jack, whoever does end up in the White House, that is going to have implications for the Middle East. There does seem to be a sense at the moment that pressure being applied from the US is not necessarily being listened to in Israel. And some people would argue, well, that's fair enough. Israel's a sovereign state. It can do what it's like. I guess you've got the backdrop there of a lot of weapons are supplied and the safety and security is very much protected of Israel by the US. So, what do you give much credence to this view that Netanyahu in some ways politically benefits from prolonging this war?
I'm sure he does. I hope that's not been his main consideration. I suspect certainly people around him will believe very strongly in the strategy of trying to destroy the different enemies of Israel on different parts of the border. I've no doubt, though, that there will be an element of the judgment here that is about prolonging his own position, but also about using the instability in the US that's almost certain to be in place, even if the vice president becomes the president. It's still going to be a fairly unstable American political environment until January. And that he will see some use in that. But I think there is an opportunity here, I think, to really maximise the pressure and to do that in a coordinated way and with a clear objective, firstly, of getting the hostages home, secondly, getting discussions underway about where the future might go in that region, linked to reconstruction of the damage in Gaza and so on. And then thirdly, get the focus of the democratic world back where it needs to be. And that is supporting the fight against the hostile Russian state.